Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to the first episode of Is It Just Me? The podcast where we're going to be normalizing not having it together, figuring out faith, surviving adulting, managing mental health, and still keeping up with pop culture. I'm Shumi, your resident overthinker and girly navigating life, God, and everything in between. So let's get into it, because surely, it's not just me. So a little bit of a deeper dive into why I've started this podcast. I am a Christian girly. I was baptized 2 years ago, but I grew up in a Christian home throughout my life, although I was very much not living a Christian life beforehand and didn't really understand it, and kind of just, like when you just grow up in something and you just kind of accept that that's what it is. That was very much me. I was very much coasting on the back of my family, essentially, because I just gone to church every Sunday, but then kind of as soon as I went to uni and did start to do my own thing, I was not living like a Christian girl. But I would always identify as being a Christian because I have always believed in God. It was just one of those things where I wasn't actively saved. But I wanted to create a podcast as someone who is still figuring things out, for people to sort of be honest about their experiences and be honest about how they might view certain things. I feel like I said before, just a lot of the things I was seeing were quite performative, quite unobtainable almost, and then you just feel a lot of guilt and shame as not being able to uphold a perfect image. I don't believe that being Christian means the lack of fun, and I want to create a sort of different narrative for people who might be looking in and thinking it looks like a bunch of rules and it looks like a really sad and destitute life. I don't want that to be the narrative anymore. I very much don't believe that is what God's intention for our lives is. I think that there should be a space for those things to coexist, and I don't see that happening a lot online, and I think it's probably for fear of judgment. But I know too many people who are like me, or probably the opposite. I don't know enough people who are like me, but I just know that there are people like me out there, people who, yes, you've said yes to a certain life, and yes, you've accepted Jesus as your God, but you're still very much trying to navigate that space between that and how that correlates to real life and living in a life or a world that doesn't all think the same as you. And that's absolutely normal and so fine, and everyone is entitled to their own opinions, their own autonomy over their life. But I just want to create a space that is for people who might be curious, just want that honest conversation about whatever is happening. And so we'll be talking about, everything: faith, mental health, pop culture. Also, I feel not normal to see this much of each other's lives or to know this much about each other. And the level of comparison is actually becoming very, very scary. So I just want to create and build something where people just know that I can be a mess here. And that is very normal, and that is still okay. No matter how old you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you believe, you can be a mess here. You can ask questions here and you will be received with love and care, because that's what I think humans should do for each other, what happened to humanity, man? Yeah, so that's kind of the premise of this podcast. I know obviously I spoke about faith quite a lot already, but I don't want people to also feel like you have to be a Christian to listen to this at all. That's very much not the case. I'm talking as a Christian, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself have to be one. But it's just a bit of context as to why I might have certain ideas or thoughts. But I really love being challenged, and I love a healthy, honest conversation. So I also implore you to come in, listen, even if that's not your walk of life. And yeah, maybe we can edify each other. I feel like we also need to do that more as a society. We've gotten really separate almost, and I really want to have a safe and calm and nice place here where that's not the case. So yeah, if that sounds like a bit of you, stick around because we'd love to have you. This first episode is going to be the meat of it. We are going to be talking about being a young Christian today and just existing as well. I think you could probably relate to this irregardless of if you are a Christian or not, because I'm just going to be talking about mainly like the pressure on young people to be achieving what I can only describe as an absurd amount of success in the first 25 years of your life. I saw this TikTok the other day and it was like, you turn 18 and then you're in your adulthood. So technically it's like year one of your adulthood. So you're basically a baby, which makes me feel a lot more safe and a lot more, it feels more attuned to where I actually am in the level of my life. But I do think that this pressure to really be something magnificent early on is actually becoming quite insane. And I want to preface this also by saying that I am actually quite an ambitious person. So the reason I took the steps that I have taken in my life, so going to uni, doing my A-levels, getting a job more or less straight away and moving away from home and doing all those things is not necessarily just because I felt like I had to, but because that is my nature. Like, I like to achieve things. I like having goals. I like to do well. I like, all those things. But I do realize as I've become unemployed that I definitely had like an unhealthy attachment to success and to how I appeared to other people, especially. Like, at first it sounded so exciting not have a job and to just take time out and to take this rest period, but my goodness, I've absolutely hated it. Well, not all of it. Like, there's been parts that I've loved and I've adored, like, and especially in the beginning, obviously, just having a little lie-in on a Monday morning is not going to be, obviously, it's not the worst thing. But as someone who has really trained themselves to constantly be looking to the next thing, it's been a really difficult time. And I realised that because I put so much importance, I guess, on how I am being perceived. And for the first time, I feel like I'm being perceived to be trying things and failing. And it's one of the main things that I'm struggling with. And I was I'll say this a lot, but I was having a conversation with God, which basically means like I'll just be sat and thinking, and a lot of the time I'll get a thought or a challenge, if you will, that I'll say is from God, because I know it's just not something I would say to myself, because it's way too challenging or convicts me to think a different type of way. But I was having a conversation with God about that and about like what I'm meant to be doing, because I kind of felt led to take the voluntary redundancy, not just because I wanted a break, but because I felt like, again, like God was saying, like, you need to try something new now. And so when I did it, I kind of thought that we had a bit of a deal, like, I'll take this voluntary redundancy, cool, and then you're gonna bless whatever I do. And that very much did not happen. Like, everything I've basically tried, like, I've been attempting content creation and things like that, but like, it's just not been the journey that I thought it was going to be. And I'm realizing that one of the things I think he's trying to teach me is to basically have a better relationship with failure and being seen to fail and being seen to try things. It's something that I feel like our society right now really demonizes. Like, you need to either hit the ground running, like have 1 million followers and engagement on everything you do, or whatever you're trying, you need to be successful from the jump. And it's just so unrealistic. And I don't know anyone that I actually admire who has had that journey. But when it's you actually putting yourself out there, it's actually disgusting. And yeah, it's been really interesting navigating that. And then I've been also sort of tackling this idea of having fun and, being a good person and being a Christian as well. Like, I think there's a lot of things online right now that people demonize and say that this is a bad thing. You shouldn't be indulging in this if you're a Christian, if you believe in God or whatever. Like, I'd go as far to say, like, a lot of people would probably say, even if you're a good person, like, you shouldn't be doing this so much and you shouldn't be doing this so much. And I get it. I completely agree with some of the things that are coming out. But then I do just think that also, like, people really are very heavily involved with other people's walks of life. They have no idea where that person's come from, or what that person is struggling with, or what that person's conversations are when they're on their own in their room, or they're praying, or they're, just going through a bad time. They have no idea what those conversations are like. And they're the first person to be like, well, if you weren't doing this, or if you weren't doing, like, you have no idea what that thing is doing for that person. And I just think that sometimes we have almost too much information on each other and too much information about what we think someone else should be doing. And I think that goes across the board. But then you do have this feeling also of sort of like guilt and confusion, because then I'm like, am I just saying that to myself because I want to be able to do whatever I want to do without the repercussions of having to say, actually probably should let that thing go, or actually probably isn't doing the best for me. So you are like, I feel like straddling these two very different voices of, no, actually, I'm trying to live my life. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm only human. And no, yes, you're allowed to make mistakes, but are you even trying? Like, are you actually putting the effort in? Like, to be better, to be a version of yourself that you think is like, perceived as good. I don't know. But these are the things I've been tackling in my head alone. And I've come to the conclusion that it can't just be me. And I do think that mainly as a chronic overthinker, and a person who is very harsh on themselves a lot of the time, and I think a lot of people are, I do think that we do need to come from a position of grace and talk to ourselves as actual friends, like someone you like. Because sometimes I do catch myself talking to myself as if I'm an op, like as if I hate myself. Like, and I know that sounds dramatic, but because I actually don't, like, I do love myself. But I'm just like, why is it so easy to speak to yourself like shit? Like, I just don't get where that comes from. And it's just annoying. And I think the way that mental health ties into every single thing you do and every single thing you want to do, like even doing this podcast, I was like, I really didn't want to do it at first, because I was like, I don't want to be perceived to try something, and I don't want to be perceived. like there's certain things that I do for myself, like I know that I will enjoy. Like I'm already enjoying myself just chatting like this so freely. But I know that when it comes to sort of like uploading this and pushing out my own thoughts and saying, yeah, this is kind of how and what I think, I know I'll like die. I know that a part of me will be like, I don't know about this. But as someone who has gone through a very, very long mental health journey, and someone who has gone through a very, very long journey of self-esteem and confidence, and just learning to deprioritize other people's opinions, especially people's opinions who don't have the guts to do what I'm doing, I'm starting to really just try things. And I really just don't want to die and think, oh my God, why didn't I give that a go? Or why didn't I say that? And there's so many people that I admire, and they're just doing things. Like they're just doing it, even though it might not be polished, even though it might not be perfect, they're doing it anyway. And I would much, much, much rather be one of those types of people than be the type of person who is scared to try things because of the opinions of others. So yeah, these are some of the things that I've just kind of been thinking about, just struggles and being a Christian, I guess, in today's society. I also do think that there is this idea of Christians in today's society where it's like you're meant to be perfect, and I really want to break that taboo. I am very far from that. And if you're kind of coming here with that preconceived idea, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to disappoint you. Like, I'm the furthest thing from perfection, and I don't strive for it. I think that there is so much beauty in not being the ideal version of oneself. And I think that the whole purpose of Christianity is you're accepting that you're never going to be perfect. You've accepted that, you actually need someone else to be perfect in your place. And that's the thing that I sort of rest on when I think about it in general. So also, if you're wondering why I am like that, that's one of the main reasons. It's because I've accepted that I do not and will not ever be a version of perfection. And I'm quite comfortable with that now. I say that I'm quite comfortable with it, but it's easy to say. I think at times I'm not. I think at times I do feel really frustrated by the idea that I'm not going to be, like, I'm never going to achieve perfection. And I think a lot of people actually do when they think about it. Like, I think we're all secretly wishing that we were perfect, maybe not in all areas of your life, but at least in one or two. But yeah, I'm rambling now. But I was just thinking about these things and how I want to be perceived. And I want to be perceived as someone who tries things that they want to try. And I want to be perceived as someone who's also is trying to, be bold about the things that they care about, whether that's faith, whether that's mental health, whether that's popular culture, whether that's, doing this. I just kind of thought, if you want to do it, why not try it? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's absolutely fine. No one's going to die. So yeah, that's kind of the premise of how things are going to go. I'm obviously going to have more niche themes, but I kind of just wanted to give you guys an idea of how I think, where I'm starting with things, and see if I'm your vibe. Hopefully I am. I hope you like me. And I hope this is encouraging to some people and you feel heard, or maybe you hold similar opinions in certain things, and we can chat, we can be friends, and that would be cool. I hope that is the case for you. I would love also to do a section in this podcast where we discuss your dilemmas. So if you ever have a dilemma that you want me to talk about or want my opinion on, I would absolutely adore that. And you can just DM me on my social, so I'll put that in my bio. But you can either DM me on TikTok at Shumi Makuto, which is SHUMIMAKUTO. That's my TikTok. Or you can DM me on Instagram, which is just at ShumiXX. So SHUMIXX. If you want to send me something, I'll obviously make it anonymous. I will never share anything like that. Very much not the vibe. I really want this to be a safe space for people. And I feel like it'd be cool if we can all just throw our little bit of a 2 pence in. There's going to be lots of things that we're going to be discussing. Nothing is off the table here. Next week, I don't really want to preface too much about what I'm going to talk about before the weeks, just because I'm like, what if something amazing happens and I completely want to change the topic, So I'm going to keep it more or less open. I want to see what life throws at me or what I see, because there might be something amazing that happens next week. Might be something awful that happens next week. Who knows? But I'll keep it open, and we can vibe here together, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got this far, you're an absolute dream. I think I love you. All right, my lovelies, thank you so much for listening to my first ever episode. That's all from me today. If you related to anything in this episode, don't worry, it's not just you. Make sure you follow, share this with a friend who's also figuring life out, and DM me and your let's unpack this. That's what I'm going to call the little section where you give me your dilemmas and we'll unpack them together. So I'll catch you guys next week. Oh my gosh, my first episode. Thank you so much. This is so cute. Love you. Bye.